Okay, right. I'm going to mute everybody. If you unmute yourself after I've muted everybody.
Well, they don't have to unmute themselves, do they?
No, but Martin will have to unmute himself to be able to, for us to hear him. Okay.
Right, that's great.
Yeah.
I can hear you now, Alan. And can you hear me?
Yeah. Right.
Thank you, Martin.
Very quickly go through and do a slideshow of all these 30 images, and then we'll come back to this one and do the scoring. Oh,
Sounds like one of the monitors, is that?
I'm done to those. It's all right. Right. Okay, so you saw all those all right, did you, Martin?
Oh yeah, sure. I've been through them all before, and
Okay.
I'm all ready. It's
We'll start with this then. So this is number one, Monarda seed head forming.
right. Well, first of all, Alan, thank you very much for inviting me this evening. It's always a pleasure to judge acts. So the standard is always really high, and I've got to say I'm always pleased to have a look at some of the work of the members here. The entries this evening, I must say, have been quite sort of widespread and varied, and it's not been the easiest of tasks, I've got to say. Just going through these, I have to spend a bit of time sort of thrashing out which ones have got an edge over others, and scoring accordingly. So so one of the things I do always try to do is to give a wider spread of points as we go along, rather than having it all very narrow, which then doesn't tell the authors anything. I don't think it's always better, I think, to have a wider spread of points. And as far as the comments are concerned, do remember it's just one person's opinion. Somebody else may think something completely different. So without any further ado, we'll start off with the first image. And really, it has got some real impact as this. The seed head itself, with the flowers just starting to fade away from it, leaving that seed head there. Very well observed, crisp and clear. The foliage in the background is quite visible. It's distinguishable. It hasn't got such a softening as to really help us concentrate. And the fact that there are lots of other seed heads behind does kind of merge with some of the flowers on the seed head. So whilst it is really good, the actual background is starting to interfere with the actual subject itself. And so this one, we're going to give it 17 points.
So that's 17 points, and that was Keith Cawthorne. Right. On the battlements.
All right, okay. So whilst I'm looking at the image that you're showing me, I've got my I've got another screen which I've got it on, which is a clearer image rather than using the zoom.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been looking at. Yeah, I mean, this is a really good attempt, I think. Somebody's tried to mix the whole series of images to kind of give away a bit of a story, and in a lot of ways, it kind of works. We've got the cannon, which is a separate image, which has been put in along with this battlement or the turrets. Our subject on the right hand side, really clear and crisp. The thing that worries me, the thing about this particular image is the images have all been taken in different lightings. Our chap on the right has been taken with a flash. The cannon's been taken in full sun. The ship, well, I'm not really sure, but it all doesn't blend together correctly. And there's a few other bits and pieces, the flames on the ship and the flame on the in fact on the cannon and on his firing stick. They're not quite right. And so it's a really good attempt, but when we're blending images like this, you do really need to think about having the light on the individual images the same, either it's all flash or it's all sun or whatever it is, and that way it becomes far more believable. So whilst it's a really good attempt, and congratulations to the author for having a go at this. In terms of the competition tonight, 14 points.
So that's 14 points.
Yep.
George Fifth. King of Steam.
All right, so bear with me. I'm a moment behind you on the on my image. Yeah, I mean it is a great image of the Flying Scotsman coming head on towards us. The light, the natural light's been very kind, although the front end of the engine is actually in shadow, which is a little bit of a shame, but it's what it is. And as the engine comes round the bend, that's always a good place to grab an image of a steam engine, because you get the engine and you get the carriages, and you see an awful lot more of them, and you got some detail in there. It's clear, it's crisp. The actual steam from the stack itself is a dirty brown. It's much nicer when you see these, when they're burning the coal and the steam's in there and it comes out white and fluffy. It always looks a lot more iconic, perhaps is a good word to use for that. And it's, what can I say? It could almost do with something, you know, to make it come alive. It's almost one of those, and I know all people hate to hear the word record shot, but it's kind of a bit like that. So right, I'm going to give this 16 points.
16 points.
16.
That's Ivan Pudlick. I think I'm getting a bit of feedback off your microphone, Mike, Martin. But anyway.
Sorry. Okay.
Nectar collector.
All right. So should I be a little bit nearer or further away, do you think, from the...
It's when I speak, it's going through and then it's coming back. It's reverberating through your microphone, I think, or somebody's microphone. It's all right, carry on. It's all right when you're speaking on your own, but when I talk back the scores, it's coming back all muffled, or it is to me. But anyway.
But you sound fine when I can, anyway. Right, our nectar collector. The image of this of the bee is clearly quite stunning. Its detail is brilliant. You can see very clearly the hairs on the back. The antennae are very crisp. But the thing about this particular image, which is most impressive, is that the handling of the white balance on the flowers themselves. White's always a really tricky subject to get right, and the author has managed to capture a lot of the detail in the actual flowers themselves. Background beautifully out of focus, helps us really home in on the actual subject itself, which is beautifully crisp and clear, even down to the individual bits of nectar on the sacs on its legs. It's really good, and I'd like to hold this one back if I may, please.
Next one, white-tailed bumblebee.
That's quite interesting that we get two bumblebees right next to each other in the same competition. And I mean, this one again, it's beautifully crisp. It's as it should be. Great detail on the eyes and the antenna, although slightly going off a little bit on the tail, but then it's a macro shot, isn't it? So you do expect some of that, but the important thing is the head and the antennae are well in focus, and that makes a big difference. The actual thistle, it looks like a thistle head, but I could be wrong. Again, lots of detail, background out of focus, and this one, I think the one before this we've seen has got a slight edge on this, so I'm going to give this 17 points.
That's 17 points.
Yep.
Keith, Ken Sachs. Where the grumpy shepherd told the angel to put the Christmas tree.
Yes. I mean, I saw this and I thought, yes. Yeah, well, it's great for a laugh, and that's good. That's all good fun. As a critique of the actual image itself, I don't know, the lighting's really not being very kind here, and on a subject like this, an angel with that stuck up a skirt doesn't move a lot, so we have time to actually consider our lighting, and I think this has just been taken as a bit of a joke and put in as a bit of a humorous entry, which I think is great. You do need to have a bit of that from time to time. But in terms of a competition, thank you for the joke, and there you are. Here's my 13 points for you.
Yeah, 13 points.
1-3. That's it.
Pete Webster.
Thank you, Pete.
Green winged orchid, white fawn.
Yeah. The image is set very nicely to the left-hand side. So thank you to the author for that. It does help when they're not absolutely plumb in the middle. Some of the rules of the third do apply even when we're doing flora. I think it's a really nice shot. The one thing I did notice about this, and when you get to have a little bit of a close-up look at this, it does look very much like there's a bit of a halo going along around the actual image itself. And whether it is or not, I don't know, but it feels like it's been either sharpened or that bit of the image has been sharpened, and or possibly even have a separate background added in. But as far as the background itself is concerned, yeah, nice. It's out of focus. It's not a distraction, and it makes it feel like it's in its natural environment. The whites on this, some of them, to be fair, are a little bit overexposed, and there's a bit of loss of detail on some of the actual flowers themselves. So it perhaps could have been just toned down a little bit as far as that's concerned. So overall, the green-winged orchid, 16 points.
That's 1-6, 16 points. David Neal. Red squirrel eating hazelnut.
The image here. This is a really great image. When I saw this, it was like, wow! You know, the detail that the authors managed to capture on the squirrel is brilliant. Really, it's absolutely spot on. From the tips of its tail to its little claws on its feet at the bottom, even down to the claw on its left hand. You can just see it's captured that bit of light, catch light in the eyes, spot on. It's you can't fault it. Background's beautifully out of focus. I'd like to hang on to this one, please.
Okay. The Lonely Tree Sunset. Sorry, Lonely Tree at Sunset.
That's okay. Right, okay. The silhouettes in sunset always make for some really dramatic imagery. And the fact that our tree is leaning over like this, it's seen a lot of weather and maybe 1 or 2 winters too many. Bits of branches obviously broken off at some point. And then we've got this very dramatic sky behind, creating this really interesting silhouette. The thing that I would have think that could have helped this image tremendously is the author's chosen to give us very little of the actual ground that it stands on. And I think it just needs a little bit more of that rather than chopping it off so low. And perhaps if we were to take a little bit out of the top edge of those clouds, giving it and keeping this a more letterbox look, I think would make a big difference to this image. But yeah, it truly is a striking image. But with those two things, that the grounding, it just needs. I feel it needs to have more of a base to sit on. So I think we're going to go with 16 points this evening.
That's 1-6, 16 points. Ken Sachs. The Shambles on a Rainy Night.
I love the way that the starburst on the electric lights has been achieved. It's usually by having a much higher f-stop when I've done sort of nighttime photography. But this is absolutely crystal clear, lots of detail in the brickwork, and the way in which the shambles sort of just disappears off into the distance gives it a destination as well. And one thing that the authors managed to do, which I thought was really quite clever, right at the bottom of the image is a little puddle, and in the puddle there's a reflection of the light above, which I thought was just, yeah, it's a little bit of attention to detail, which I think works really well. And it is. It's a cracking image, and I'm going to hold this one back, please, Alan.
Okay. Eyes on the Prey.
Oh yes, right. So, and I was going to ask about which owl it is, and I couldn't tell you. So, as I don't know, and I'm not that well up on ornithology, let's just deal with the actual image itself. What I do love about this particular image is the way in which the wings spread right the way across the top of the image, creates a real border to it with the eye as a main focal point. The background, you can tell it's a wooded area. There's a bit of trees at the bottom, but the whole thing sort of just blends into the background, and it's a real sense of it being in its natural environment. So the so I'm just changing my mind about what I'm going to do with this one. Sorry. Right. I am going to hold this one back as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll hang on to this one if you don't mind, please. Sorry, I was going to score it differently, but
Aboriginal parking space.
yeah, it's a really good observation. Is this there's many things that you can say about when you're taking an image of an inanimate object like this. But what the authors managed to do is pick the time of day very nicely. So we've got, if you look at the shadow underneath, you can see that the bike is actually in the sunshine, it's in the light, but the wall behind is just in a little bit of shade. So it really does make it feel like it's almost glowing. And I think that that works really, really well. So the authors, it's not just an image of this this particular sculpture. There's something about the way in which it's been thought about when it's been taken. Oh, we've just got very lucky. I'm not sure which, but certainly crisp and clear. Really makes that little that sculpture really stand out. As for the background, I'm not sure what the connection between the Aboriginal art and the sculpture is, but it doesn't matter. It gives a really good contrast of images. I do like that. It's but we're going to go with 16 points this evening.
81616, and that was Steve Dillon. Apes on the Rock.
Oh yes. The these pair of characters, I must say, what I really do like about the way in which this has been captured is you could almost ask them to get into that particular pose, the way in which they're both looking towards the camera, their eyes gleaming, lots of detail in the body hair, and obviously detail in the wall that they're sat on. A little bit of foliage down on the bottom left-hand side. The one thing that, for me, it kind of lets itself down a little bit is when this has been dealt with. There's like a bit of a glow around the ape on the left-hand side. It's I don't know what's been going on there, but that's been formed as part of the processing that the author's done. But it's just, it really just spoils it really, because otherwise it's an absolutely stunning image. And sometimes these effects that you can use on many of the photographic manipulation programs do kind of leave you a bit cold if you're not careful. But that's just gone a little bit too far. I know it's why it's been done is to try and highlight the actual subject and make it stand out from the background. But if you're going to do that, do the rest of the background as well to make it stand out. But just putting a bit of a halo around it isn't really the way to go. It just for me, it does actually spoil it a little bit. So maybe you could have another go at this and try again, but 15 points.
15 points. David Livingston. Two heads, young and old.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at this, you know, kind of over and over again. And the more I look at it, the more I kind of wonder about this. These, I don't know, the foal on the right hand side almost seems to be glowing, whereas the older horse on the left doesn't really have that kind of effect. And I don't know what's or why. So there seems to be something that doesn't quite fit right. And I'm not really sure what it is. But other than that, yeah, it's a nice image of the two together. The fact that we've got the railings at the back just kind of distract a little bit, which is a little bit annoying. But there are some of the elements within this that have been captured that I think really do work. I mean, I love the way the hairs on the horse's chin, backlit, really stand out. But overall, there's kind of something there about this image that doesn't quite ring true now, and I'm very difficult to say what it is. But tonight we're going to go with 14 points.
Okay, that's 14 points. Anthony Rhodes. Right, Phalaenopsis.
I'm glad you pronounced that all right, because I was struggling with that one, to be honest. The actual image itself, I like the way in which the branch, twig, which comes down with the flowers on there that have already flowered and the ones that are about to flower. The one thing about this particular image is the lighting on it just needs to be lightened up. It needs a bit more illumination to this. It feels quite flat. But the colours that of the actual flowers themselves are stunning. The purple's brilliant, and I love the way the seed heads have been picked out, especially on the one at the very top. The background colour, however, is almost like a duck egg bluey colour. Doesn't go with the flower colour whatsoever. It clashes like mad, and again it enhances this feeling of being very flat, and a deal of contrast could do with being in there somehow. So whilst the composition I think is absolutely brilliant, and the subject matter I think is adorable, the overall result is a little bit lacking, and so therefore I must say it's a little bit unsuccessful this evening. So again, I'm going to go with 13 points this evening.
Okay. So that's 13 marks. Peter Webster. The Violin Maker. Right.
Now, one thing about photography is having a story to tell, expressing how things happen and getting a feel of an event or something that goes on. And I must say the Violin Maker certainly has got a lot of that. I mean, we've got the three images, of course, but the fact that we've got the actual character himself in the top left-hand corner, out of focus, but the focus is actually on the violin itself. This is what this story is all about. It's about the process, and there he is again, you know, dealing with the head and the neck of the violin, and finally, finished job, actually getting some music from the thing. So it's a little montage of the same person, but it tells a story, and I think it's been quite clever in the way it's done. The way in which the images have been blended to create the final image, I think works really well. And I'd like to hold that one back, please.
Let go of my tail.
Now, if there was ever an action shot wanted, there you go. I would have said that was a cuckoo, to be fair, but I might be wrong.
It is a cuckoo.
I thought it was. But the opportunity to capture that must be, it's there and gone in a split second. And so the author, I must say, has been very fortunate to get that image. But not only that, it's absolutely pin sharp, and it's been handled very, very well. So congratulations to the author. The cuckoo and the, I don't want to say what it is now.
Stone chap.
It's all sorry?
Stone chap.
It's a
Right.
reed bunting.
Sorry. Reed bunting.
All right, okay. And the reed bunting, it's there in its distress, captures just the whole episode of what's been going on. Background, I say, beautifully out of focus. Can't fault that one little bit. So yeah, I'm going to hang on to this one too, please.
Riverbank Sunset.
Okay, let's get this up on my screen. Where are we? Riverbank Sunset. There we go. Yeah. Again, silhouettes and sunsets, as I say, always go really well together. Now, before we had our tree and the sunset, and it was a deal brighter image, if I remember. Where are we? Oh, I found it.
It was number 9.
Oh yes, Lonely Tree. Yeah. Here we've got not just the one item. We've got a whole series of these, and where we've got a deal more base, which I think works really well. And I love this letterbox construction. I think that does work really well. It's all the same. And so what might have worked perhaps a little better if it had been the end of these reads and then some the riverbank or whatever it was, just to show that it's just part of the scene. So I'm still going to go with 17 points.
17 points.
Yeah.
That's Joyce Wenyon.
Oh, well done, Joyce.
Heacham Evening Light.
This is I suppose really in some sense it almost becomes a pattern shot, but the way the birds are just there congregating on the mud flats on the seashore, it's really interesting. But the wet mud or sand, the way it reflects the sunlight in the centre of the image, I think is really, really good. One of the things that I think the author might have considered is to perhaps crop this a little bit further from the top, take off some of those heavy clouds, give us a more of a letterbox construction. I think would improve the image a little bit, but certainly it's a really nice image, and it has that sort of, for an outside shot, it has quite a warm, cuddly feeling about it. And I think that's all to do with the way the light has been captured. And after all, light is what photography is all about. So yeah, so I think that's. Oh, sorry, I've lost my place now. Where are we?
Number 19.
Yeah. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah. So I was looking for my score. That's all. Sorry, I do beg your pardon. Right. But no, I mean, I've scored the 17 points. There's a little bit more that could be done, but it's a really good image to start with. So it's a good basis. That one, I like that.
Right, 17 points.
Please.
Steve Parrish. The barn owl swoops to conquer.
Yeah, this is really, it's a really intense look on this, on the face of this barn owl. The concentration there on its prey is amazing. And you normally see the barn owls with their wings, outstretched. But here you can see it's got that first flap to get itself going from its stump, which very nicely is also in focus. The face of the owl is absolutely crystal clear, background beautifully out of focus, and I like the fact the authors put this on the face of the owl slightly to the right, giving it that room to move into, which is really important. So yeah, I'm going to hold this one back, please.
Through the square window.
The fact that the authors cropped this image around the edge of the actual structure, I think is a really good move. It's not trying to take the image as a separate entity in itself, but it's actually the view through it that the author wants us to concentrate on. And the way in which we've managed to capture the light and the shadows on the verticals and the horizontals behind that has worked really well. And I like the fact that as we go through, we get little slits of light in between some of the uprights and in between some of the horizontals. I think that works really well. But I say tonight there is some serious competition for points here, and I'm going to go with 17 points for this.
17 points.
Yeah, otherwise we'd hold them all back. You know what I mean?
Steve Dillon.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's nicely constructed.
Right. Barge disturbs the winter's Trent's peaceful reflections.
It's a long title, isn't it? But yes. It certainly does, and I think it's very, very nicely observed. The author must have waited for hours for this barge to come by, but yeah, it's nice that we've actually got the bank at this side and the two seats in there. It gives it a really good base. What we haven't done is we've given it more room at the back of the barge than at the front on this image. So that's why it sometimes feels a little bit awkward. We should always try to have more at the front, room for space for the object to move into. That will always help an image. But whether it's being cropped like that because of the background and the focal point of the background there being the church, looking at that, I wouldn't think that there would be any harm in taking off sort of 15-20% at the back of the barge, and possibly making it a little bit narrow to keep the same shape. I think that would have improved the image tremendously, because you don't really need that. What you do need is room for it to move into. But it's good observation. And this evening we're going to go with 15 points.
15 points. Joyce Wenny. Red grouse calling on a dry stone wall.
Imagine this is a really tricky shot to get, to be honest. And composition-wise, it's straight off the advert for the whiskey, isn't it? And I think that's it's a nice composition on the dry stone wall. Perfect. The only problem I've got with this particular image is the fact that it's not quite in focus. It's just that little bit off, and especially around the eye, it's just a little blurred when you have a closer look at this. But everything else about it, I mean, the background beautifully out of focus. The bird is put in the frame beautifully. Lots of things about it. It's just not quite in focus. So unfortunately, we're going to go with 14 points for this.
That's 1 4, 14 points. That's David Neal. Buzzard with wood pigeon.
Whereas, yeah, our next image is beautifully clear. The fact that we've got our wood pigeon there, very much dead, being devoured by our buzzard. But the nice thing is the buzzard's very nicely just turned round, face towards the author, and the light is absolutely spot on. It's beautiful. Background, it's just that green mottled effect, so that's no distractions whatsoever. And it's absolutely pin sharp. You cannot fault that at all. In the frame, it's slightly to the right, which is great. We're talking about having space to move into. I know it's not going to move very far at the moment, but the space at the left-hand side in front of the bird, which is perfect. So it's composition wise, it's top marks. So I'll hang on to this one, please, if you would.
Concentration required.
Yeah, I was looking at this image and I'm thinking, I wasn't sure what I was actually doing. It looks like he's doing some sort of welding on a wheel that's on the car. Why would you do that? And so I've absolutely no idea. But given that, the author's managed to capture our chap doing his bit of arc welding. They've got the sparks coming off, which have been just there captured in, and the detail in the chap's overalls is really, really good. It's just very clear, very crisp, and it's caught the light behind the tire as well. It's a cracking good image of somebody, working away, and I just need to have a bit more of a story to this. It's a little unclear what's going on. So we've gone with 17 points tonight for our concentration required.
Right. So that's 17 points. Keith Cawthorne. Umpa.
Stick it up your jumper. Yeah. It's got. I mean, this is an image grabbed at some sort of silver band or brass band event. One thing about images like this is we do need to have some engagement, from our subject. And if we'd have been around the other side, perhaps we've got them looking towards the camera, that would have been brilliant. The fact that we've got 3 of the tubers, great, that's a good composition. But bottom right, we've got the back of somebody's head. So there's a few bits and pieces about this that don't really sort of work brilliantly well. The white shirts, in some places we've got some detail, other places it's a little bit overexposed. So it's a really tricky one to do. I don't really think we've got the best out of our subject matter on this particular one. So I'm just going to have to go with 14 points for this rather nice but opportunist image that's been grabbed. So yeah, 14 points.
14 points. Anthony Rowe. I'm coming for you.
Yes. What I mean, to be honest, getting an image like this is great. I don't know where it was taken, whether it was taken in the wild, which I would have thought perhaps it's more likely to be Yorkshire Wildlife Park, somewhere like that. But who knows where it was taken? But nevertheless, it's actually been taken on the move. Its left paw forward. It's coming towards us, and we can see the twinkle in its eye almost as it's coming for us. So yeah, good title. The actual face is really nicely handled. A little bit further back, it goes off a little bit in terms of focus, but that's okay. I don't know if this is the best angle we could have used, but yeah, it's not bad. It's a good attempt. It's not one of our winners this evening, but I must say it's a nice try, and I do like the way in which the authors composed this. Perhaps a little bit more of the path in front of him would have been better, but I'm being pernickety now, to be honest. But I'm going to give it 17 points. I like that. It's good.
17 marks. Ivan Sedgwick. Hogwarts Express.
I think this looks very much like what the same viaducts where the Hogwarts Express film, I think it was the second one, wasn't it? The Flying Ford Anglia was taken. It looks like it anyway. But the one thing we were talking about when we looked at the previous steam train, the Flying Scotsman, the image there was just a little bit on the bland side. This, however, is somewhat different. We've got this beautiful white steam coming out. We've got this superb setting in this great background with the hills. The authors very much just almost vignetted and darkened the edges of the image, really just to help us concentrate on the lines here. And we've got the railway lines running from the bottom right to meet the steam train coming in, and that's worked really, really well. No, it's a really good image. Lots of iconic imagery, and you can really sort of feel the passion that people have for steam locomotion. So with this one, I'd like to hold it back, please.
Down the hatch.
Our Kingfisher, yeah. I must admit, Kingfishers are I've seen one Kingfisher in my time, and that was just this blur of blue and gold, and it flashed by. And so anybody who manages to capture one of these birds, you have my complete admiration. I think you've done very well. But yeah, our Kingfisher here, beautifully sharp. And when we're looking at wildlife, capturing something that they're doing naturally is really telling the story about who they are, what they do, how they live. It's more than just a picture of a kingfisher or any bird of that matter. But capturing it in its natural environment, doing what it does best, I think is really good. So I'd like to hold this one back too, please.
Finally, this is the last image.
Yep.
Snipe.
Oh yes. Now this is a nicely captured image, the snipe. Thank you to the author for putting this bird through the left, so we've got room for it to move into. That really does help, and you can see how this bird progresses over these mud flaps with its long beak when it's on the hunt for its food. Lots of detail. I say one of the things that separates this one from our previous image is, whilst this is just there, it's doing what it does. If it would actually manage to capture it, having found something in that deep and dark mud, it would have just brought the whole image to life. And of course, the difficulty is with little brown birds, they do kind of be they're always a bit bland, aren't they? And especially in their natural environment, which they're meant to be camouflage. This one is fine. The author's been quite lucky. We've got some light reflecting on the mud, so it does really enhance the actual bird and the shape of it. But yeah, tonight 17 points. And I think that concludes the colour section.
So that's 17 points, Steve Parish.
You've just got 1, 2. A third of them held back. That's bad, isn't it? No, it's there's some cracking images there this evening, Alan. Really are some real beauties. So we've got to now have a look at.
Well, shall I? I'll go through the images one by one, and then you can direct me to where you want.
Yeah, we'll just have a quick scan through them then.
Do you want me to start
With number 4, which was the Nectar Collector.
Nectar. Number 8, Red Squirrel. Number 10, The Shambles on a Rainy Night. Number 11, Eyes on the Prey. Number 16, The Violin Maker. Number 17, Let Go of My Tail. Number 20, The Silent Barn Owl Swoops to Conquer. 24, Buzzard with Wood Pigeon. 28, Hogarth's Express. And finally, 29, Down the Hatch.
Okay, so of those images, we start with the 18 points. We're having number 4, the Nectar Collector, 18 points.
Right, the Nectar Collector was Dave Livesey, 18 points.
Shambles on a Rainy Night, number 10.
Yep.
18 points.
18.
These are, I'm doing all the 18-point ones together.
Right, okay. That was Peter Spate.
Okay. Number 11. Number 11.
Eyes on the Prey.
Yep, 18 points.
That was Bob Fish.
And our Violin Maker, also 18 points.
Violin Maker, 18 points. That's number 16. That's myself.
Okay. Number 20. The Silent Barn Owl Swoop.
Yeah, that's 18 as well.
It is. And the last of the 18 points is number 20.
That's right. That's myself again.
Well done. And the last of the 18 points is number 28, Hogwarts Express.
Right, 28, Hogwarts Express. That's Pete Spate as well.
Okay. So there is, let's have a look, going back the other way. 19 points is number 29, Down the Hatch.
19 points, that's Robert Fish.
And then, and we have got 2 at 20 points. Let Go of My Tail.
Sorry, we've got 3 images left. So
Sorry, which have I got left, sorry?
there's the the buzzard with wood pigeon,
Oh, yes, sorry, I beg your pardon.
red squirrel, and let go of my tail.
All three are good. I'm going to give 20 points to all three.
Okay, so if we go through those, the red squirrel, 20 points is Mary Fish. Let
Very
go of my
good.
tail is also Mary Fish. And the buzzard with wood pigeon is George Fiddler. Now, can I ask you to choose your best image out of those three, please, Martin?
Yeah, this is where it's really tricky. There's, you know,
Do you want me to go through them again?
no, no, I'm looking at them on the screen. I know what they look like. I'm just purely for the action shots. I've got to go for the let go of my tail.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it has impact as well, really, isn't it? It's just, I mean, how lucky was that shot? But the harder you work, the luckier you get. So they say.
that was Mary Fish's. Congratulations, Mary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done there. I think that's a beautiful image.
Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated.
I have to tell you,
Well done, everybody.
I have to tell you, Martin, that was the best image at the Newark Challenge the Monday before last out of 70 images.
Yeah, okay. Not surprised. But, I mean, the others are truly great images, I've got to say. But that's just it's just got the edge. It really has. So
Right.
I'm very happy to give it to that one. So,
Martin, if you want to know the owl, it was an Asian wood owl,
really? Oh,
the flying owl.
I was looking at it. It's not a long-eared, short-eared owl.
No, it's from India.
Oh, right. Okay. So,
We're having a
no wonder I
10-minute break, Alan.
Yeah, we'll have a 10-minute break and then we'll carry on. Okay. Well, is 10 minutes too long, or is that
Oh,
No, I don't. 5 minutes is fine by me, or whatever.
okay? Then.
Five's good.
5. Okay. Right.
Almost a conversation you can feel, but we're not getting this with this one. So it really hasn't worked for me this evening, this particular image. So 14 points.
14. Steve Dillon. The last of the haymaking.
Yeah. So here we have our similar tractor doing a different job. The background is typical Lincolnshire. It's great. I love the fact that we've got this dust being thrown up at the back of the tractor and gives a real sort of almost like a halo around it, which is really quite nice. The image has been taken towards the sun, so we've got this quite a strange dark and light bouncing off the tractor, which perhaps if it had been the other way around, or the light coming in from one side might have been coming in more from the right rather than from behind the tractor, we'd have seen a little bit more detail. So it hasn't quite got it as far as that's concerned, but we have got contrast, we've got great sky, and the fact that we've got this little bit of grass on the foreground really does give it a base, which I think which works really quite well. So again, I think we're going to go with 17 points for this one.
17 points.
Yeah.
5 and 6. Wing in the wind.
The dandelion seed head. I think this has worked quite nicely. I like the fact that the author's managed to just vignette the whole thing in around the edge, so very little distraction, and also darken the stem of the dandelion as well, just at the bottom, so it's not it doesn't finish harshly at the edge of the frame. So it really does give you a great lead in to our subject, and the way in which the individual seeds are falling away. I think that's working really, really well. So I think this one, I think tonight we're going to hang on to this one, please.
Hold on. My friend Don.
Now Don's he's sat there ready for his big moment, his picture. And when it comes to portraiture, portraiture is all about telling a story about an individual, about somebody, and representing that in an image. Now, Don's clearly had a good old life. He's got, it's all written in his face. You can see that. But from the point of view of a portrait, I think what we really need to be doing is looking at this being cropped in far more, possibly above the level of the table, and just bringing the whole thing in so we can really get to see Don in his very natural and human face, if you like. The lighting, it's a little bit harsh on the left-hand side, a little bit dark on the right. So if I was taking this myself, I'd like to see I've got some sort of reflector or a big piece of white card or something at that side of him, just to reflect a little bit of light into that. That would have helped tremendously. So it's a really good. I love the detail in his face, but it just needs a little bit of work. Does this to make it really special? So again, it's there, but not quite. 17 points, and it could be. There's a bit of work. It could be really quite a good image. That.
Right, 17.
Please.
10 seconds. Abandoned boat core pack.
I love these images of decay and weathering and especially when we put it in somewhere like this, which is a really dramatic setting. We've got these wonderful sky, lots of detail in there, and you can really see the detail that's in the rotting husk of this ship. Even the barbed wire that's been put around the boat to stop people climbing on board. There's you know, you can see all that sort of detail. If there be any criticism, it's that the darkness of the mountains behind are as dark as the actual ship in the foreground, and possibly could do with just lightening a little bit. It would help the boat itself stand out a little more. But that's just it's a minor criticism, to be fair. I'm going to hang on to this one, please, if you would.
Puglia Cork. I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly.
I've no idea. Puglia, wherever that is. I mean, the image is very much like a sepia tone, which the author's chosen to give us this in, and perhaps that might be right. We've got these lovely stone roofs and these beautiful domes, and it's just quite an interesting little courtyard, isn't it? And the fact that the courtyard leads us to a door, which then is open and leads us into somewhere, gives us a bit more of an interest in the actual image itself. It's taking us somewhere, leading us somewhere, and so it has more than just a courtyard. There's a little bit more to it, and that's always important with any sort of image. It's having something else about it that makes you think, makes you have an emotional response to something. And I think that's really, and that's just a nosy Parker in me, I suppose. Just wanting to have a look and see what's going on. But yeah, it takes you in, and there's all the detail on the sides. And I love the sort of the the way the walls on the left hand side here, the paintworks are just crumbling a little bit. So it really shows its age and everything like that. So I do like it. You know, we've got there's a bit of issue with this sky. I don't know what's happened to there. It's all a bit sort of grey and doesn't really work very well. So that perhaps needs a little bit of work. So I don't know. It's not quite. I'm not going to quite hold it back. So I'll have to give this one 17 points too. It's one of those nearly images, not quite, but nearly there. 17 points.
17 minutes.
Please.
Bombs away, Skipper.
Now this Lancaster is. It's quite an amazing shot, really. Very rarely do you see them with the bomb doors open like that, and it's really crisp and clear. I guess it wasn't particularly very high up when it was taken, but there's absolutely nothing to really complain about as far as the image is concerned. It's, if anything, it might just be a touch over sharpened, but I mean, apart from that, I mean, I'm being really pernickety now. But one of the nice things I like about when you see an aircraft image like this is that the authors managed to get the shutter speed just right. So we can see the actual propellers. We can see they've got movement, but it's not so fast it's stopped them. It's just about right. So yeah, it's hats off to the author, and I'll hang on to this one too, please.
Right. Mute Swan.
Now, swans are notoriously difficult to photograph, I always find. I've had a go at a few myself, and some have been more successful than others. One thing I do like about this, again, the image of the bird is over to the left, giving it room to move, and also it shows us this rippling effect in the water around it, which you can see where it ripples through the reflection on its head. The light, to be fair, hasn't been that kind to the author, unfortunately. It does lack a little bit of contrast, and whilst we've got lots of detail in the feathers, it's all it's a bit grey rather than white, and it needs a little bit of lift, but still wants to retain some of the detail in the feathers. So it's always a tricky one. It's always nice to get a catch light in the eye as well. But again, the weather's obviously not been in the author's favour here. So whilst the author's done all the bits that he can with what he's got, or he or she's got, it just hasn't really quite worked this evening. So Mute Swan, 16 points.
16 minutes.
Please.
Dave Neal. Splash.
Now, the whole image here, the whole point of this particular image is its simplicity. It's just so simple. We've got the leaf with that last drop right on the tip, one that's already gone and one that's hit the water right on the edge of the frame at the bottom. It's just simple, and the fact that we've got the line around this, it's just been done in black. Now, I'm looking at your screen here, and it's got it's against the black background. When you sent me the image, it was on a white. The image was put on a white background with the black stroke line around it, and it makes that really does make a difference, to be fair. So that's the image that you sent me, not the one I'm looking at on your screen. And so yeah, it's just well thought out, well executed, and I'm holding it back, please.
Misterton Lower Lock Gates.
Now, the gates here have got some really great detail in them, framed by the bridge over the top, which is great. This archway, and what I do like about it is that we've got a lead through. It takes us somewhere. It takes us through to the next lock gate, or there's like the fish runway, the runoff water at the on the left hand side. It takes us through there, and it really has got a bit of a story to it. I think it's these lock gates look relatively new, actually, looking quite in good nick, but again, lots of detail in there, and the water itself. We've got the birds and that bit of foliage at the side growing in the canal, and the canal towpath that comes underneath the bridge and up to where we are. I think it's really interesting, and the whole image has been, I think, it's been well thought through. It's level. It's not on a squiff. Even down to, if you look at the brickwork on the top of the image, it's all absolutely perfect. It's been handled and thought through quite well. So as for points that with the competition that I've seen tonight, 16 points.
So that's 16 marks, Kenneth Sykes. Harvesting the Grey.
Yeah, I don't really understand the title, to be honest. But here we have. We've got the tractor harvesting away. There's two tractors there following up behind to collect in the. Is it sugar beet to collect? Difficult to see. Behind us, we've got a sky, which is the bit that unfortunately lets this image down tremendously. The image of the tractors, great. There's nothing. There's no argument with those at all. When you look at the actual image, the sky, which I'm suspecting has been added at a later date, it's very pixelated. And if you look up towards the right-hand side, there's a darker cloud, and you can see the pixelations on that edge, which is a shame, really. I mean, I can see why you want to put a more dramatic sky in, because it gives whole drama to the overall image. But in this particular instance, it hasn't worked, unfortunately. So that's what you get when you take a small image and you stretch it to put it into a bigger image. You get this pixelation, and the foreground, our subject matter, isn't pixelated at all. So 13 points. And have a look at the size of your images before you try doing it. Make sure that they are a similar size so that you don't get this problem. But that's, I see what's happened. I've done it myself, and so I'm, yeah, it's a shame, but
13 marks.
13.
Standing on the edge. Yeah,
this is another quite a dramatic image, and when you look at this to start with, cracky, yeah, that's great landscape, rolling hills, great farmland, and that works really quite nicely. But then when you start having a bit of a closer look at it, there's bits and pieces on this that starts to kind of worry you a little bit. First of all, we've got our photographer in a great spot on the third, looking over the hillside. But the silhouette that we have here is just is just too dark. It's almost like it's got a black cutout stuck in the on the side of the hill, and I'm guessing that's been added at a later date. So that anything you put in there has got to kind of work. If you look at something that's also quite dark in the foreground on this image, bottom right hand corner, we've got some couple of dark areas there, but they're dark and they're lighter than an image and something that's purporting to be further away, which it would always be further away they go, the lighter they get. So it doesn't look right. It jars tremendously. And there's a few little bits and pieces. For example, there's some of the foliage on the grass in front of the photographer, really quite bright and light. In fact, it's brighter than the actual bit of grass that we have bottom left-hand side. So there's somebody's had a go at this, and I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to make this whole landscape feel like it's a great place to photograph and have a great sky in there, but it hasn't quite worked. It just needs a little bit more attention when you're practicing your skills with the with Photoshop or whichever program that you actually use. So nearly, but not quite, I'm afraid. So standing on the edge, 13 points.
13.
Yeah.
Lola, the inexpensive model.
I like this. I like this. This is fun. She's a gem, isn't she? Nicely, nice thoughts, and it's a bit of a laugh, isn't it? You kind of have to have a bit of a giggle when you're doing this job. You can't take photography so seriously. So, excuse me. Sorry. And I don't know the authors, but they've had a bit of a thought. Oh, let's have a bit of a giggle. And there's obviously been some issue about models charging for their services. Well, this young lady's not going to charge an awful lot. And yes, inexpensive model, but I suppose really, if you're going to put it in, you might as well get it in focus, haven't you? As well, that'd be nice. It's a bit blurry, and when you're doing portraits, you like to have the eyes on an angle, which they are, but also about 2/3 of the way up the frame as well. So it's not really. I can't take this too seriously. So Lola, the inexpensive model, has a rather inexpensive 12 points.
I don't think you were speaking seriously. Peter Webber, 12 points.
Yeah.
Forest Light.
Okay. Where are inexpensive Forest Light? Yeah. Now, the image that we have here, if we ignore the sunlight coming through it just for a moment, what I do like the author, in fact, the author's just kept to the left of the path, so we've got a different angle. It's not dead center, leading through and over and through the woods, which is quite interesting. I suspect that the light that they're referring to here has been an addition, to be honest. Just looking at that, there seems to be two suns in the sky. There's one right at the top of the frame, and there's one that we have as, our authors put in there. And it kind of works, but it doesn't. It's a nice try. It's a nice try, but it's not kind of done it for us today. And that kind of lets it down. Whereas the image itself is quite interesting. It's a wooded area, lots of detail in the trees. It's not a bad photograph, to be fair, but almost spoiled by our our attempt to try and make it something a little bit more interesting. So, you know, nice try, but 15 points. Sorry about that.
It's 15 marks.
Please.
Robert Fish. Late autumn leaf.
I love the detail in this. It really is. It's superb. The veins are all absolutely clear. The image is crisp, and the fact that we've got this slightly tonal elements within the leaf itself, really so in the centre, really show it up. The one thing about the image which does give me a little bit of concern is the fact that our background is so dark. It almost blends into the actual leaf itself. And now the image you're showing me, Alan, is a little different from the image that I've got from you to start with. The image I've got from yourself shows very little contrast around the edge. Well, there's a bit more actually on the image that you're showing me now.
I think that must be Zoom because it's the same file. So.
Yeah, I was saying, but when it comes to, I've got it on. I've got two screens here. I've got my computer, and I've got my laptop, and I'm receiving your Zoom on my laptop, and it looks a lot lighter, to be fair, to the image now. And so the comments I was going with were really all about the image I'd seen originally. But to be fair,
Martin, I always send the judges the files that are going to be displayed, because I know that programs like Zoom do actually make the images look not quite as sharp as they should be. So
that's why I've got on my other screen, I've got so that's what I'm working on. And to be honest, I was going to give it 15 points, but having seen that by that little bit of lighting, we'll go with 17 and I'll readjust that.
right, that's 17 marks. Keith Cawthorne.
Yeah, I do apologise to Keith, but it's literally just what I was looking at when I was.
Right, this is The Shepherd.
Yep. Let's have a look. Right. Okay. Sharp, really happy in his work. Clearly. I mean, the dogs look more enthusiastic about shepherding than he does. It's quite an interesting image, but I don't know. It's not the typical image of a shepherd you expect, is it? But the shepherd and his dogs there, those couple look really well up for it. They really do. But I do like the fact that we've actually got him in his little motorised four-wheel job. I think he's probably driving, which a lot of the shepherds do use these days. Yeah, it's captured that sort of outdoor feel, certainly. Does it tell a story? I suppose it does a little bit, but it really just wants to have something about it, and it just lacks something. I can't really. It's very difficult to put your finger on these things sometimes, but yeah, I'm going to give you 16 points this evening.
16 marks.
Yeah.
Parish. York Storyteller.
He's now there's a face that only a mother could love, isn't it? It's come on, let's have this up. Yeah, I mean it looks like something out of a Dickens novel, to be honest. It's that gnarled face. Now, one of the things that I've noticed with this, it appears to have gone through some sort of sharpening or HDR process, which, whilst that is great because it gives the skin tone some really interesting character, I think we've perhaps gone maybe just a little bit too far with this one. It's almost a cartoon effect. It's as the but I do like the way in which the subject is engaged with the author and got this bit of a sneer going on, and it just makes it makes for quite an interesting story about this storyteller to do like. But the treatment, I think, has just gone a little bit too far. So we're going to go with 17 points on this.
17 marks.
Love the hat there. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
That's okay. Next one is
It's for some reason it's frozen. Just a minute.
Magnolia stellata. Is the next image, hopefully.
There we go.
Okay, right. What can I say? If you're going to do a flora, this is a really good example of what good flora photography looks like. It's white, it's difficult to photograph. We've got no, nothing's blown out. It's all absolutely perfect. There's detail in every single part of the flowers. Background spot on for this. Yeah, I'm hanging on to this one, please.
Badger.
Yeah, now as soon as you see this, it's like, whoa, this has got some, it's just got impact, hasn't it? It's got something that really sort of just the lit part of its body forming this almost like a circle as a reflection. I think it works really, really well. And I have no idea how on earth you managed to get this picture. But yeah, it works. It works really well. Lots of detail in the head and the eye, the body. There's bizarrely, there's even detail in the reflection, which is not normal. But yeah, it's absolutely spot on. So whereabouts you managed to get this, I have no idea. I'd be interested to know. But I like it, and it's just that whole sort of circular effect that is created with this reflection, I think is its real sort of is real meat of this particular image, and it works really well. Again, we're going to have to hang on to this one too, because that is really good. I love that.
Lesser known spider hunts prey.
Yeah, I do like it when we get some interesting images like this. So at least we've got a sense of humour, haven't we? Which is brilliant. The tinsel web and the jelly spider, brilliant. What can I say? It's a humorous thing. And thank you very much to the author for putting this in. I really don't know what you want me to say about this, other than thank you very much. It was great. And let me just give you 15 points for this.
15 marks, Peter Webster.
Please. Thank you, Peter. That's good. Made me laugh.
Backlit lit by sunshine, I think that should say.
Right, okay. Now this is a really nice attempt, actually. We've got this very dark background and we're looking up at the foxglove, which is not the normal sort of view you'd have of it, but I like the way that's been thought about, and we've had a go at this. The actual foxgloves themselves, as we go up the stem that are lit, there's a few of them on this right hand side, but they are they are all overexposed. There's no detail in the top of them. The light has just blown them out. But at the top of the actual image, it's really quite dark. So I just don't know how the lighting's worked here, but it's not been backlit particularly, as more sort of side lit or lit from above. But the fact that the author's chosen to have a black background to enhance the look of the image, I think that's worked really quite well. Black backgrounds and flora does usually work tremendously well, and this has had a really nice attempt, whereas the one we've just seen before really did succeed. This has been less successful, unfortunately. So 14 points.
That was 14 marks.
14 Foxglove backlit Sunshire, yeah.
Okay. Forlorn Call of the Old Leader.
Yeah, this is a real sort of portrait of the ape, and I like the title actually. I think it really does kind of represent the feel that this particular image creates. The authors managed to capture some real detail in here. The coat, even down to some little tiny elements on the tongue as well. It's been beautifully handled, well captured, and the detail is really quite stunning. Have we got the best out of this? I mean, the authors put this bang in the middle. I would have maybe suggested moving it slightly over to the left or cropping it slightly differently. Maybe bring the top down a little bit, but really to help us concentrate on that face, that call, which the title is referring to. So I think it's a tremendously good image, and we're going to hang on to that one too, please.
Okay. On the back streets of Lisbon.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, when you first look at this image, you think, oh, it's really quite busy and there's a lot going on, a lot of this graffiti and good old Rodrigo there with his name plastered on the walls in spray paint. But what it really does show is it's not just the I've just noticed what's been written above the GOEZ bit. I've noticed that before. But if we look, what we do have is we have a lot of detail, a lot going on, a lot of texture in the walls. But then down the steps onto that little underneath that arch, we've got the light coming through from the main street, and we've got a picture, an image of a woman there, and it just kind of leads you somewhere. It takes you somewhere else, and it does really make you sort of start to think about what this place is, how it works, or its relationship is with the rest of the street and Lisbon itself, presumably, and the sort of people that would live there. And why would somebody want to go to all that trouble to graffiti a part of what is somebody's home area, with that little fountain there in the courtyard? It's quite interesting, but this would have been less successful if we hadn't have had that little view through, that light coming through from that tunnel, and that woman right in the bottom there. That kind of makes this image. So it's going to have to be held back as well. If you would, please.
Ornithopter.
Right, okay. Let's have a look. Sorry, I'll just bear with me a second. Now, the image we saw before of the magnolia, which was very similar to this particular image in terms of white flowers, black background, and this would be up there with it, I would say. But the one thing about this particular image is the flowers on the nearest to us are just out of focus. There's just they're just too soft. And that is the primary flower or the primary part of the image that we've been asked to look at. Other parts of this are really quite sharp, but others do just let it down. The exposure has been handled really nicely, but it's just a little bit too soft in the places where it needs to be absolutely sharp. The stamens in our primary flower here in the centre, again, it's just slightly out of focus. And whilst if it was an action shot and there was a little bit out of focus, you can kind of forgive all that because the thing's moving and you take your chances and you get your shot like the Let Go of My Tail, the colour one that we looked at before. That was an action shot, but we've managed to get everything perfectly focused. Here, we've got something which isn't going to move. It's not jiggling around. We've got plenty of time to get this right, and it hasn't quite worked, unfortunately. So, lovely try, nice combination of stems and flowers, composition, love it, coming from the bottom right, top left, works a treat, but it just lets itself down, and that's a real shame. So, 14 points.
14, Joyce Wednesday. Cowboy Lookout.
Yeah. Yep, somebody's had a real go at putting together a whole load of different images here. We've got these really nice mountains in the background. But if you look at our cattle, you can see along the back of the well, they're all black and white, aren't they? Oh, God, Martin, you fool. You can see the one that's predominantly white, the second one on its back, you can see this black line where it's been added into the into the foreground. And then on top of that, our very characterful cowboy, which in itself actually is really quite a good image. But as a complete image in itself, it really doesn't work. I'm afraid to say. But it's nice that people are having a go at this, and I think it's just a question of practice, trying different things to get the best out of how to blend images successfully. Whereas if you look, I mean, just behind on the left-hand side, if you look at the cow there, you can see there's a black line across its back, which obviously shouldn't be there. And behind that, it's like a halo, a glow over the background behind it as well. So there's all sorts of things there that need a bit of practice, I'm afraid to say. So 12 points.
Okay, that's 12. George Fiddler.
Sorry, George.
Ivy and Mummy.
Now, when you create any sort of image, what we're trying to do is not only record what we see, but also to record the feeling, the emotion, and stir something within the viewer themselves to make it really sort of work. Now, here, what we managed to capture is an intimacy between mother and daughter, which is very special. And and quite unusually, we've got that real sort of very special feel on the mother's face, whilst the daughter is looking back at the author. And it's quite a sort of intimate, but very protective sort of feel that we get from this image. And any image that can create that sort of feeling and reaction to it will always do well. I mean, you can criticize this in all sorts of different ways. I mean, you could sort of, you know, we've got a bit too much behind the mother's head and what have you. Bringing it in would help concentrate onto that emotional bond between the two. There's a few bits and pieces you could do to, I think, perhaps improve it, but essentially the image has got to be right in the first place, and I think that's what the author's managed to create here. So I'll hang on to this one, please.
Andy.
Yeah, this is a very nice portrait. It's well handled. The skin tones are well represented. It's been handled very well. It's a top half torso portrait, which is great. The whole thing has been very nicely handled. The lighting actually is very good. The more you look at it, and the eyes are absolutely clear. If you have a closer look at the image itself, you can see exactly the detail that's been captured there. What does it tell us about Andy? Young girl, and she's not looking at the camera, but she's just looking away, almost shyly, which is quite interesting. But it's a good portrait image. And I'll have to hang on to that one too, please.
And the last one of the evening, natural and man-made power.
Yeah, it's you can really see where the author's trying to come from as far as I've just gone lost my images. No, I can know what we're talking about with this one. So what I would like to have seen is perhaps this, if this could be made into more of a letterbox image, and we'd pop it down to the level of where the cables come in from the right hand side across, maybe taking a little bit off the bottom and given that as a nice long letterbox feature. I think that would have improved it tremendously. Great sky, by the way. I know, brilliant. Real drama in there, and the lights and the darks work really, really well. But the subject matter in relation to the overall image is rather small. And I think by making it into a letterbox, shortening the base and the top will just really make it pop out. And we're really then concentrating on the windmills and the pylons, which, as you say, it's natural and man-made. And then there's always the argument, of course, to say, well, the stuff that is natural has to be transported by those pylons. Anyway, right. But no, you've got the basis of a good image there. So we're going to give 16 points tonight.
16, Mark.
Please.
Okay, so I think you've kept 10 back again this time.
Something like that, yeah. There's some really nice images here, Alan, I've got to say. It's but what I'll do is I'll do the same again. We'll go through and pick out the 18s and then the 19s and then top marks. So the 18 points for number 7, Abandoned Boat, Corpac.
7, so that's 18 points. That's Peter Spate.
Yeah. The next one is 18 points. Number 25, Back Streets of Lisbon.
Back Streets of Lisbon, number 25 is 18 points. That's George Fiddler.
Yeah, nice image then. And number 29, one we just looked at a moment ago, our young lady Andy. Nice portrait.
Right, that's me.
Oh, congratulations. Well done. Nice. No, it's a good image. So those are our 18 points. The next ones are all 19. So we've got number 5, Blowing in the Wind.
Number 5, Blowing in the Wind, is 19 points. That's Mary Fish.
Nice image. I like that. And whilst we've got it in front of us, number 9, Bombs Away, Skipper. Like that. Good. Nice quality.
Skipper. Sorry, come on.
Yeah, just a nice quality image. It's just, yeah, it works beautifully.
That's Anthony Rhodes.
And then number 21 is Badger Reflection.
So that's 19 points again. That's Mary Fish again.
And 24, Forlorn Call of the Old Leader.
24 is 19 points, David Livesey.
Yeah, good. That is a cracking good image. And then we've got 1, 2, we have 3 images left. We do. Okay, so all these 3 are 20.
Right. So we'll start with that one, splash number 11. And that's me.
Oh, well done.
Magnolia, Stella, David Neal, 20 marks. And Ivy and Mummy, that's Keith Cawthorne, 20 marks. Okay, so Martin, again, as you did with the colour, can you pick out your best one of those 3, please?
I think I'm gonna have to go for the Ivy and Mummy. It's the reason why I picked that one over the other 2 is because it has a real connection with the viewer. It really has. You feel that real emotion there. It gains that reaction, which is very special. Difficult to do, but very special.
So if I so you've got that one and that one. Can you choose the best of those for the best on the night, please?
Got to go to our colour image, which is on the screen now.
Okay, so Let Go of My Tail, and that's Mary Fish. So Mary is the monthly winner today.
Absolutely. Brilliant image. Absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Really
Mary.
pleased. Thank you. And well done the others, David and Keith. And
Yeah,
brilliant.
I've got to say, there were some absolute cracking images in there. There really were. And that's the hardest part about this, doing judging, is, it's a very fine line between some of them. Yeah, I'm very pleased to have done your judging for you. Really enjoyed it. And Mary, congratulations on your Let Go of My Tail.
Thank you very much, Martin, and congratulations to the winners. Mary, you've done it again. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Alan, would you